Welcome, everyone. We're so happy to have you with us today for our inaugural DOC Business Concierge conversation. My name is Sarah Spring. I'm the Executive Director of the Documentary Organization of Canada. And we're just really thrilled to be able to offer this program. So this started off as a pilot program with the support of Ontario Creates. And it really came out of just a lot of the conversations and consultations that I've been a part of or participated in, official and unofficial, and people just really speaking to the need for access to veteran producers. And so we ran it. Lisa Valencia-Svensson was the main consultant for a pilot program that we ran for 6 months. And then the Canada Media Fund has this wonderful program called Sector Development Support, and we accessed it to expand it and invite Leena Minifie is here with us today, and Pauline Bouvier, who is offering the program in French. In Quebec, we'll do an in-person French session in June in Montreal, where I am. So yeah, I'll leave it there. I want to welcome everyone. I also just want to say that DOC has been doing land acknowledgements at the beginning of our sessions, and we're starting to just rethink how we want to acknowledge that we are on occupied land and what we want to be saying and honoring, and what work we intend to do that supports our commitment to anti-colonialism. So I'm not going to do land acknowledgement in the way that we have been. We have a new strategic plan, and we have some really brilliant Indigenous elders on our board, and we'll be working together to think that through. So I'm going to stop talking now and turn my video off and hand it over to Kadon.
You think that I would know by now. You know, we've been doing this for like 2 or 3 years. But hi everyone, it's great to lead this session today and have this conversation with these 3 incredible individuals. I'm really excited to see opportunities like this opening up for producers, specifically for emerging to mid-level creatives right now. I know coming up in the industry with my start in documentary, and once I realized that directing was not the thing that I want to do, that I wanted to produce, just trying to find the different pathways to that and finding really great resources to support that development. So congratulations to DOC for putting this together and to accessing additional funding to expand this nationwide and to also make it bilingual, so we could have some of our Francophone community members as part of this as well. So thank you so much. We're gonna keep this really great, in terms of having a great conversation. Want to keep it interactive. So if you have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat or the Q&A, and I will get to it and prompt you. But feel free, treat it as if we're all in a physical space together. And this is your chance to speak with some phenomenal people. So joining me here today, we have Lisa Valencia-Svensson, who I've known for many years now. Lisa is an award-winning producer, an activist, an advocate, a mentor, so many things at once. We also have Leena Minifie here as well, who is a renowned consultant in the space of producing, impact producing as well, and really applying an anti-racist and anti-colonial lens to her work. And lastly, we have Loveleen, who is somebody I feel like we've grown up in the industry together, Loveleen. I think when we met was through was it through a director program that we met? But known each other for so many years, and we've been able to grow side by side in this industry. So it's wonderful now, and it feels like such a reunion that we have in this space. So I want to kick this off by really just speaking with Lisa and Leena about what was your journey to an initiative like this? why are you involved right now? Let's kick it off that way.
Do you want me to start, or do you
Yes.
want to start? Okay. I mean, how did I get involved? Sarah and I were meeting informally last summer, and she mentioned this program, and I expressed an interest in doing it. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts of how I got involved. But I think the reality is, for so many years, I worked in Canada and a bit in the US in the documentary world, and also in factual series production companies here in Canada. And I could see, I was always one of very few BIPOC people of color, people anywhere. I could also, it was just so painfully obvious all the time how much not just our stories, but more importantly, us telling our stories and our take on our stories and our take on what might be important from our lives was just like not a thing. It's just simply not a thing. All of the storytelling that was being done was always from a white perspective. I mean, it's just that simple. And it drove me nuts. And I guess I always want to, whatever I'm doing in this industry, I'm always trying to help improve the situation for Black, Indigenous, people of color creators in one way or another, because there's so much work to be done. The systems are so deeply set up to support filmmaking from a white and Eurocentric, a Western perspective. Also, other, I guess, other characteristics as well, but I'm focusing on race. And it just, like, there's so much to be done still. So I'm always just trying to do whatever little bit I can, while at the same time trying not to go crazy by remembering how much other work could also be done. It takes, what we're really looking at is fundamental cultural change in terms of whose stories we're telling and whose stories are considered important. We're literally trying to change everyone's psyche. And that is an enormous undertaking. And our psyches have been set for at least 500 years through colonization and other historical processes, but especially that. So for us to try to undo that in our storytelling, which is, I think, one of the primary ways through which that psychological setting is created in the first place. This is a huge job. So this is one little thing we could all be doing. So that's why, more broadly.
And then Leena,
Yeah.
what to this?
Again, much like Lisa, I had a conversation with Sarah about this initiative, and it's been quite important to me since I started my career to kind of make sure that we bring people up as we go with us, and make sure that people are getting as much training, mentorship, expertise, an ear to pull on in the hardest of times, to get us through what is, predominantly white, predominantly colonial experience of sort of media telling, storytelling, documentary journalism, all those things, because that's kind of what I experienced coming up. So for sure, I just wanted to have my my world open to being able to offer the same experiences that, I've sought out for myself. And, we had our generation was looking constantly for people that could reflect us, especially with our allies and our POC and Black Indigenous communities, queer, like, what's your experience of this world? And sometimes you need that. So I want to be able to offer that place, like a safe haven and a cushion, and also strategical and tactical thinking around problems that sometimes our BIPOC people face. And sometimes they're things that we've all experienced, and sometimes they're more logistical, practical, money things. But I'd like to offer the whole entire gamut to whoever needs them, and know that sometimes distance and meeting somebody for the first time is actually a safer space than like going to somebody in your community as well. So I'm always cognizant of that I can be in a different geography if you're from Toronto or Ottawa or somewhere else. You need to call me. I can give you that space, and then it can be protected time for us. So.
And what's beautiful from what both of you shared is that how this initiative, it's it's way more than providing business consulting services, but it's part of really shifting ground in our industry as well and accelerating the evolution of it. So that is what I saw from it. And also you, both Lisa and Leena, pulling from your journey, your growth, you know, as producers, seeing like, what did you need, you know, coming up, and how can you provide those or facilitate that in other producers? Lisa?
Yes.
Yeah.
You want me to answer?
Yeah, I
Sorry.
thought you were wanting to say something.
Oh, no, not particularly.
Great. And then I think you kind of answered my next question in terms of why now, why something like this is so necessary. And before I throw the question back to you, what I've noticed is, especially in the past 2 years or so, seeing like what seems to be more and more funding that's available, or funding programs that are targeted towards members of our community, more opportunities to get your project greenlit and so on. But we're also seeing that this is being put into the hands of people who've been historically excluded, who may not have had access to the knowledge, the tools, the resources to navigate this successfully, and to really ensure that they have the infrastructure to support this, you know, to support the influx of these funds and these opportunities as well. And this came up like from speaking to other producers. One of their greatest challenges around funding, one is around like really trying to understand eligibility criteria, trying to understand a lot of the nuances with funding, just knowing, you know, an awareness of even what exists. So I want to know like how something like this, how your roles as consultants may support people who are new to this level in the industry.
Do you want me to start, Leena? Okay. So what I found, because I've been doing the consulting sessions since January with different filmmakers, I guess mostly in Ontario, so far, is that people come with their set of questions that they have on their mind. And sometimes we answer the set of questions, and sometimes I guess I ascertain through, maybe it's watching the sample or through looking at the budget and finance scenario, or looking at the synopsis and treatment, or just in conversation with them, that there's a larger piece to figure out first, that all the legal and business affairs and financial details don't matter if you haven't figured out this bigger piece first. And what I've also noticed when I'm consulting with people is that, sure, it's business concierge, but I'm basically advising people on how to grow their careers. You know, what the next best steps are, what it's important to do, what they're up against, especially if they're Black or Indigenous or people of color, what they are likely to face as they're going forward, pitching and trying to get distribution and just trying to have the conversations and trying to build a profile, especially during COVID times. But so I realized that it turns into, I guess I'm just sussing out, if they came to me personally for advice, this is what I would say, because I'm almost like trying to discern what I would feel like needed to be addressed if I were producing the project. So I think, and it's because I know how hard it can be to try to prove yourself, when people are looking at you just with that assumption that you don't have as much to offer, you know. And so I know what it is to have to get all your ducks in a row and have to present really well and so I'm advising on all of that. So I hope I've answered the question, but that's what I'm doing with each session. It's sort of it. And half the time we actually talk about the questions, and half the time the questions disappear and we talk about all the other stuff. And then people have said that it was very helpful.
Yeah, Leena, do you have anything to add to that?
I like to say that, yeah, there's a lot more that people can apply for. Yet, you know, we can come in at a certain level. We're not coming in as our peers, obviously. So there's a lot of things to contend with, to think around, especially if our grant envelopes are different or specialized. who we can work with, how to best pair with people, especially if we want to pair with each other. Who else to look for support. I also would like to think about audience and where the project is going to, because a lot of our applications now and our funding and grants are trying to get people to decide who their audiences are, what their marketing plan looks like, what the impact looks like. Can this make a ripple a lot longer in time for your certain projects? And I really like to get into that stuff, because that changes the essence of essentially your planning, your schedule, and your budget a little bit as well. So really digging into that stuff, where I think some people who are emerging don't know how important that is now to be upfront with those things with funders. And I just think it's crucial that we have this space for ourselves. I mean, it's great that we're offering it for BIPOC people and marginalized groups. I mean, there was nothing like this when I started. So it's just an honor to be here and to be part of this. And now 2022, it's finally here. And I just put my hands up and say thank you to for DOC, the national org, for doing something like this.
Thank you both for that. Just going to bring in Loveleen now. What drew you to tapping into the DOC Business Concierge service?
Thanks for having me, Kadon. First of all, I feel really excited and honored to be on this panel, because I just met Leena today, but everyone else, I had some different types of interactions and have been part of my documentary journey one way or another. As a self-taught documentary filmmaker, I started this journey in about 2013, 2014, just taking workshops. And my old mentor, Juan Baquero, ran Doc Story Studio, which was phenomenal. And the first event he took us to was a Doc Institute event, and they gave us tickets. And I still found the cards of like TVO, and it felt, I remember being at that Doc Institute workshop or panel, and I was just like, oh my God, like, this is my kind of people. We're just very casual and mad about the same things. like, we want the world to change, and then we're also mad that we can't be given the money to change bring the narrative. And since then, Doc Institute has been a place that, I've taken Chanda Shavanis's courses twice in 2018. And I would recommend anybody who's attending, before jumping into this program that's being offered, I would really recommend trying listening into the Chanda Shavanis's, what is it called? Producer boot camp or something. And now they even have it online, so you can buy it off the Zoom. And so I kept picking up the language around the different types of things. I didn't always understand the full breadth, but I'd be like, okay, there's a telefilm budget. Okay, you got to get releases. You got to do this. And kind of, Kadon, I appreciate what you said about, like, there's this influx in funding, but also a lot of this funding is through tokenism. A lot of this funding is not providing the support and mentorship to actually like bring the project to completion. And they're also like underselling and assuming naivety, right? And we don't have the funds to be paying, like, I had to pay a lawyer. It's a blessing in disguise, but I ended up, for one of the grants, registering a production company, and I had to pay out of pocket to get like lawyers to provide me advice and other people who are going to make a profit. So this came in the middle of my documentary journey, but I was really thankful at when it did, because I felt like there was somebody on the side who was a mentor. And in this economy, in this time, in the pandemic, it is very difficult to find mentors as racialized as racialized filmmakers, because even our mentors are burnt out. Like, we're all burnt out. Like, who has 5 minutes for a call? Like, no, I haven't been for a coffee in ages. Like, So I really appreciated that Doc Institute facilitated this time, facilitated this space, found people who had capacity and experience. And just like Lisa said, it was really great to start with the questions I had, but also they have enough experience to know the questions I'm not asking. And I was able to take like a big pause and work backwards and then work forwards and be really prepared. So I've really appreciated it. And I think for me, it's like going from a DIY documentary, and I never thought I wanted to be a producer, but in reality, I feel every documentary filmmaker ends up being a producer at some point. Like, you need to know how everything works and like what's happening with the money. And there's no that pipeline. There is no pipeline there. Like you're DIY, and then you have 10 people you got to pay, and you got to send your taxes in, and this I think was that perfect bridge, and I will keep using it. And also I want to say shout out to BIPOC TV and Film, because this was the year I used the 2-year free membership, and so that didn't exist a few years ago. So that was literally a reason for like the meeting of the minds. And shout out to Lisa, who also mentored me on my first documentary 7 years ago. So it's been, you know, always great people and great support here.
Oh, that was so heartwarming. There was one thing that you said in that, in terms of Lisa really helping you in answering the questions that you did not think of asking. Can you share what maybe one of those questions would have been?
Yeah, sure. I think like, you know, right now, like attending, you know, different types of workshops being done over the last couple of years, there's so many funds for distribution. Every single, you know, TV, Netflix, channels, YouTube channels, people are looking for content. And then you have to sign these contracts with licensing deals, with producers, like who do you give credits to? And all of that stuff adds up. And all of that means something over time in the longevity of your project. And so those were some of like those contractual things where it's like, I don't actually know what that means. You know, I don't know the long-term outcome and impact of this. Right now, maybe I'm feeling, oh yeah, just take a 75-year licensing deal. And because we're racialized, and, you know, it's scientifically proven that we internalize so much racism. And so it's like, you know, let me just take what I get. I'll just take it. I'll just take, you give me pennies, I will take it. So it really helps to have somebody on the other side just be like, no, don't do that. But shouldn't I just take it? Like I'm getting the pennies, you know? So it really helped me have confidence to like be like, okay, this is, and I went back a couple times with the same question because I didn't feel confident to be like, no, I gotta stick to my guns. But I appreciate it because I feel like now I know how to continue growing. And I also am learning like where I'll delegate in the future, who to hire, what I don't want to be doing next time. And you really can't do it all anymore. So those kinds of things. It's difficult to change from the documentary director hat where you're so focused on the story. And then you realize, oh, my story is going to be completely co-opted, or, you know, like I won't ever get it to where it needs to go, or whatever, if I don't take care of the other side of this project.
I'll come back to the, I just want to remind everyone that if you have a question, please put it in the chat or add it to the Q&A, and we'll get to it as soon as we can. But this is your moment. Lisa.
I also just wanted to make an overall note, because I think for a lot of emerging documentary filmmakers, I think the most crucial thing of all that I try to share in the consulting sessions is that this is a business, and it has to be run like a business. And you have legal obligations, you're going to have government reporting obligations, you are going to have financial obligations, never mind proper clearance of rights obligations. Once you get into that producing side of things, the legal, the financial, the business affairs is not a joke. And it, to me, I think that's correct, because the moment you're moving into, yeah, like $10, $20, $30,000, whatever, but when you're starting to hit 100 and anything above that, people have given you a lot of money to do something with, and you need to be very responsible with that money. And I think that's what I like to impart thoroughly through each of the sessions is, you know, and I'll walk people through that. It's like, if you want your career to progress in this way, it means that you have to move into you're creating product and it's a business and you're operating that way. If you don't want to, that's fair. You can just stick with projects that are very DIY, very financed with very little money. But if you're trying to move into the more money, more whatever, there's no way around it. This is a business. You have to be tight. And people are absolutely gauging you for how well you can run your business and how well you're going to be able to deliver product on budget, on time, everything, and legally sound. So that's what's been a joy, is because eventually most of the sessions go that direction a little bit. And it's just a nice overall conversation to ask people what are they wanting to do? Where do they want to head? And also to say that no path is right or wrong. It's just more, what do you really want given, but make sure you know the full responsibilities. If you're wanting to go down the getting bigger, getting larger budgets, getting whatever, it's a huge slew of responsibilities. And I'd rather that people be prepared than unprepared and then falling down flat.
And thank you for reminding us all that it is a business. This is something I know, like, people who know me would hear that from my lips as well, you know. And that's how I realized that I'm more of a producer than director, because my questions anytime somebody would talk about their project is, how are we going to make it? How are we going to fund it? I'm just talking about that instead. And just a reminder, you know, and I think it's also critical for people who may not have any interest in being producers. I think it's still very important for you to understand that side of the industry, because it impacts so much of what you can do. And it's just important for you to have that in your knowledge database as well. So it's like, even if you don't want to do that, or even if you have a producing partner, it's still important for you to have that knowledge. Leena, both Lisa and Loveleen spoke to some of the gaps, some of the support areas that's needed for emerging filmmakers, emerging documentary filmmakers. Are there any other gaps that you've noticed in your career? Yeah.
I think there's some gaps, just to play a bit off of, yes, it's a business, but it gets to be this different thing when we're incorporating our cultures and our languages into the projects that we're doing. So the budget determines what you can do creatively, which is important, because the more languages you have, more culture in there, you're gonna have to represent that in the budget as well, especially if it's in multiple languages. But there's something at the very front of producing that I think that I'm offering that's unique, that I didn't realize how unique it was. So for my last, when I produced my last series, producer, with British Columbian Untold History, where we looked at 40 different sort of racialized and marginalized and different narratives in BC, and put that together for a local broadcaster. I pushed the broadcaster to put some of this stuff into their long form. I don't think we push enough. So when it comes to protecting the culture and language, I went to 52 nations in order to pass protocol. I think it's the biggest protocol ever done in the history of the world, I think, to ask for permission to use archives and stories. But I also would like to tell you that you can push to have those things honored in your long forms. We tend not to, especially as emerging people, to be like, no, but we have to get to that place where we can do that, especially if it's our respect and our relationship with the communities is at stake. I put those things in Indigenous protocols from ISO into practice. I put them into my legalese. I put them into my also into my contracts and my deal memos. If where there's co-productions or executive producers, I make them sign sort of a memorandum of understanding that they'll acknowledge these language and cultures and these protocols, and that some IP will never keep some of its language and culture and stories that we don't keep, and we have to give back to the nation. So there's some things that are specifically Indigenous, but I don't want to just say that. I think BIPOC people have to understand that we all come from these cultures and communities that we maintain relationships with whether it be family or elders, and that we need to kind of build this. So it's not just a business, we're not just exploiting, but there's something, and there's that goes back to the community in some way. So I do want to build reciprocity within and get broadcasters to understand this, as well as our funders, and make, I know it's more money, a little bit more time to make our contracts and our agreements with this multiplicity in mind, but let's start making law ethical and legal and moral and captivating, that stuff, so I can really help you guys do that. It doesn't have to be just Indigenous. I can help you think about it.
I will. Yes. I was busily writing notes while you were speaking there. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, you reminded me of so many things. And for us to know that we can bring in our own ethics, that our cultures have a place in these business transactions as well, and that we could still honor who we are, honor our communities in the work that we're doing here. And a lot of what we're doing going forward is really challenging, as Lisa said earlier, these very Eurocentric and white business models that are often so built on exploitation, you know. And how can we do things? How can we do things differently as BIPOC producers as well? So I love to hear that too. And I think that's what happens when you have cultural, when you have consultants, when you have producers from these communities with that understanding of why you need these clauses and why you need this language included in your documents as well. And what you're speaking about there, Leena, it's so empowering for someone who is emerging or someone who is new to documentary as well, to know that there is room for negotiation, you know. And Loveleen, you mentioned that earlier in terms of sometimes you just feel like you just need to accept whatever is given to you. But there is risk in pushing back, but there's also power in pushing back again. So I think that's one of the most powerful things that I'm hearing coming out of this experience, you know, really empowering BIPOC creatives to stand in their power in that way. So I love to hear that. We do have some questions, so I want to just throw to one of them from Lynette Kisun. Can you suggest ideas on how to pitch documentary ideas and to whom in order to attract the team to create the documentary? That's a big one. That's a big one. Yeah, go ahead.
So
Yes.
for me, if that came to me in a session, that's a really, and I mean, it's only positively, that's a really good example of a question where I would be like, okay, I think there's other questions that need to be addressed because what do I say? How to pitch, like if you're trying to attract a team to create a documentary, to me, everything is utterly strategy. And so if you are, depends who you are you trying to create a team to produce a documentary? Are you someone established? It's very different. Are you someone emerging? Now you have to build your reputation first. How are you building your reputation first? You may often have to do short form pieces first, and then you've got your calling card, or you may have to make your way into established production companies and move your way up through there, which is what I did. And then people were taking me seriously earlier than they would have otherwise, because at the time I was working at Storyline Entertainment. That's strategy. So it depends, who are you that is wanting to create a documentary and attract a team for that, and how much networking have you already done, and how much have you already worked in the industry to know who you want to work with, because that's part of it too. And then I think how to pitch is a whole special little thing in its own. I think you have to, I've only ever produced things that I'm really, really personally riled up about. And so my ability to pitch, I think my natural just passion for the story comes through. There's also a very, very specific process of learning how to pitch. You have to practice, you have to script it out, you have to deliver it, you have to see how it goes, you have to do practice deliveries. I did that. Some of my earliest pitches were atrocious. They were really atrocious. And so then I learned what is it about the delivery, your visual, your voice, the amount of certainty you're delivering, how well do you know your story? How well have you thought through the three questions that you get asked most often about your project? Have you built in the answers to those 2 or 3 most common questions into your pitch so that you're nipping those questions in the bud every time? Do you have your elevator pitch? Have you tried it out on people to see if it's working? With Herman's House, we honed it down to, what is your film about? And I would say, it's about a man who's been in solitary confinement for 40 years. And then I would pause and I would watch the face to see as they were taking that in. And then I would say, and the dream house that he designed with a friend who was an artist. But already they're still absorbing the first thing. So I was figuring out the psychology of that that very short pitch, because really what you're trying to do with the pitch is you're trying to hook people in to be like, what? Like, whoa, wait, no, I need to know more. What? Oh, wow. Okay. Like, you've got their attention. So how do you get their attention? At the core, that's a psychological process of getting people's attention. So that question has many layers of answer to me.
And that's good. I saw Loveleen was waiting to add to that as well. So I'm just going to throw to Love.
Thanks, Kadon. I think for me, I just wanted to say, because I was often on the other side of these panels, like asking that exact same question. And what I wish as somebody who is like self-taught, so I didn't go to film school, you know, there's a lot of people, and I'm not like shaming that either, but it definitely made me feel like, oh my God, I'm so far behind. Attending, like building a network and starting small. Like, I have more failed projects in my hard drive than I have completed projects. And my first documentary was built on like a $500 donation from an organization, and finding people who were like, yeah, I'll shoot for $150, and then shooting. And like, the best example that I have is that, you know, Tangerine, which is an Oscar winning film, was shot on an iPhone 5. And Juan Baquero, my mentor, he's like, can you do a 5-minute documentary first? And so I really, you know, tried to challenge myself, trying to start and stop, like making these projects. And I would also recommend like the Liaison of Independent Filmmakers Toronto. I met a lot of people through there. The Ontario Arts Council, I know there's probably people from all across Canada, but the arts councils, they offer a skills and development grant. So that one was really important to me at the beginning, where I was able to pay for training, mentorship. I went for workshops. I went to Boston. I went to New York. So I was continuing to build my network and start building my projects, because the documentary I tried to make 7 years ago, like, I wouldn't make it today the same way, but I needed to make those small ones and then fail, and then also learn scalability. Like, I thought I wanted $100,000 5 years ago, but I'm so glad it took this long way, because I needed to learn how to deal with the crew. I needed to learn how to pay people. I needed to open that bank account, start getting releases. So every time I started a documentary and didn't finish, or continued, and then I learned the process, what people used to say on the panels is it does take a long time to finish a film. And I would like to confirm that that is true. In fact, I did not understand why you couldn't make a film in a year, but it's like a really arduous, grueling, slow process, but really rewarding. So there's no A plus B equals C. It's just like trying and then coming back, reevaluating, trying again, coming back. And sometimes it's the same project, but that's what, you know, people often ask, where do I find the crew? It's like, well, I found the crew at these workshops. I found the crew at these networking events and things like that. So thank you for letting me add.
And you're welcome for that. And I think, like, over the course of my career, I really emphasize the importance of building your network, of investing in your relationships as well, going out to different things. Even you could even build your network in an online space as well. They're really great spaces. You could find your community on Twitter, on Instagram, on Discord, on Facebook. Like, BIPOC TV Film has a really vibrant Facebook group where you could find people who are at the same level as you, people who just want to help out. You could find collaborators in that space, but your social capital, that network that you build, that's who you're going to grow. That's who you're going to grow with over time. And that's how you'll build your crew then. And building a crew of people who you trust, people who are invested in your story as well, who understand the importance of it, you know, so they will apply a level of care to it as well. And that's what you want to do over time. And I love what Lisa did about talking about pitching. Like, that was like such a great like pitching masterclass in just a couple of minutes. And there's all of the things that you need to do, you know, and we have to understand that pitching too is storytelling, you know, and to think about it like, okay, well, what is the story that I'm trying to tell here? And who is your audience at that time? Your audience shifts then, you know, your audience is not the people who are going to watch your film at hot dogs or watch it on their screens either. Your audience at the time, it's that funder, it's that distributor, it's that broadcaster, or it's that random person you met in an elevator, you know? That's so you could, and then you learn how to really shape your pitch in that moment. It's an art, and it's something that needs as much passion as the larger story that you want to tell. Yes, Lisa.
I just wanted to add on the pitching as well. What I learned quickly as I counted, we had about 80 meetings for Herman's House between about 4 different market events way back in 2010. It was intense. And I mean, we learned very quickly. And what I realized, maybe 4 or 5 meetings in, because we were green, let me tell you, we were green. And I realized that they were partly evaluating the story and our access to it and how interesting it was and all the rest of it. They were partly evaluating us. And they were evaluating the relationship between the director and myself. They were evaluating our interaction and the degree to which we trusted each other and the degree to which we were in sync, because they're trying to figure out, can I be in sync with them? Because the moment someone comes on board as your funder, your distributor, your crew, like they become part of the team. So they're watching what evidence of team am I already seeing here, and do I want to join it? So it's a key thing that I figured out early on, and then I realized, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah. Golden. The next question that we have from April in the chat here, I think it's a great question for everyone on this panel today. So April says, hi, I am an emerging BIPOC producer and director. Can you speak about some of the double standards you've encountered in your work? For instance, I've heard from others that if a woman of color makes a mistake or says something unpopular in the industry, it would be career destroying, whereas men get away with a lot more. I wonder if you think the double standard phenomenon is true, and what should we watch out for? So take it away. Leena, would you like to start?
I'll start. I mean, the examples I have are never ending, but I want to give people the confidence now that we're in the pool. They can't get rid of us now. We're not going anywhere. We have each other. We're gonna link arms. We're not leaving the party. So we're here. So you have to be a little bit brave, or else you won't tell you the stories that you need to tell, and you won't tell about the experiences you need to tell. So the bravery is still something I'm learning. It's not apologizing for being in the room, not being sorry for what I think. I do have different opinions than other people. I'm known for being a bit blunt, and I think I hold back a lot more than I do. But I would say that, yeah, it's true. A lot of white men can fail up. So what they do is a mistake, or they say it's creative, and then they're like, oh, it's brilliant. And then they can move on to the next thing. Ours it's a bit of a different situation. And I would say, there is a double standard. You have to kind of make sure that you have really good peer supports. You need to have people like you can talk to every day and run ththings by. If there's a situation that seems to be coming at you, or something has happened, you need to have really good people that you can advise you and basically let you rise above this thing, or help you think it out strategically. I'd say, yeah, I mean, I have a couple, I thought of something and then that's kind of gone, but there are things like being an Indigenous journalist or saying, well, you can't report in your own communities in an objective way. So I'm sure journalists have had this, like, you can't do journalism or investigative work on your own community or people in your community because you're not objective. Like, white people get to do white stories about white people, so aren't they not objective? So we have to kind of get past that point, and to name those things right away as they come up is the best thing you can do possibly, is to kind of name those things as you go. And if it's with somebody who's a bit more of a problem, you kind of have to be strategic, but we all have to, I think, play this in any career. This is not just documentary. This is not just film. This is, if you're, a data scientist, if you're doing biology or technology research, it's everywhere we go. So,
Lisa?
Yes, to all that. And then, I mean, I'll be frank, I really am strategic. So, for example, with Call Her Ganda, we were very deliberately and explicitly an all Filipino background director and producer team of 4. And we touted that, trust me, and it meant everything to us. And I made sure, I mean, not just me, the team made sure, but I remember thinking, if we bring on, we were sort of being led to maybe bringing on an executive producer in the American documentary scene, and we were led to a white man who's often lending tremendous support to people of color telling our stories in the US documentary world. And so I, from my part in the team of 4, I really made sure we brought him on board because I knew the leverage it would get us. And we knew that he was very respectful of the fact that he's the white guy, he's going to stand aside, we're using him, we're going to, to get us further ahead. We could speak openly about that, and it worked. I think it worked. And so I think also it's every time it's a question of what do you want to do, and just have no fear of being strategic. It's about what goal do you want to achieve, and then what might help you, and trying to be very above board and honest with your team members and what you're doing, but being very strategic. Why not? Because the double standards, the triple standards, the quadruple standards are absolutely there. They're going to be there for a while. And so you have to really figure out, it's a careful game, and play it and figure it out. And don't, I mean, and it's your choice. Maybe you never want to have a white EP. That's a choice. And you're allowed to make that choice. And you're also allowed to be like, no, I want to get here for this reason, because it'll help me grow my career, because then the next film I can do whatever. I think it's very crucial that people in underrepresented groups, we not be afraid to think strategically and be honest with ourselves that we're being very strategic. How do we work the system? That's how you do it. That's how I've done every film. I figured out how to work the system, because my ultimate goal was to get a film that went high in the mainstream system. So therefore I was using strategies that helped me achieve that. If I'd had different goals, I would have used different strategies.
And listen to Lisa, everyone. For the past few months, me and Lisa have had many conversations about strategy and knowing where and how to use our energies, knowing who we should have in our corner, how we should play that as well, and also knowing how and when to how to choose your battles. And to really think long term, like, what is the vision for your career? What's the vision for your project? And what's going to help you get there, And especially if you could find somebody who could be the vehicle for that, but who also understands what you're trying to do and is a true ally to your work, then that's even better for you. But it's to apply a lot of strategy to the work that you're doing. So my number one word here is to listen to Lisa. And I'm going to come to you, Loveleen, but when I was reading that one, and I did want to talk about that in terms of, yes, there are so many things set up against us. And we know so long, especially like, I don't know, I can't speak for other communities, but especially in the Black community, like us being told so often that we have to work twice as hard, that we have to push for this level of excellence, is something that is so unattainable as well, and applies some additional pressure to us. And to know sometimes it feels like even if you do all of these things, you cross all your T's, you dot all your I's, that there are still things set up against you. And that's why, as Leena said, that it's important for you to have the right people in your corner. And that's what you'll have from building that network over time, to have people that you could lean on to, people who could hold you in those moments when you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my shit here. I hope you could don't bleep that out when you put up the recording. But like, when you could do that, because we are going to face that. We're in this industry, we're in this world at a time when we're really seeing a lot of shift, but we're shifting centuries of oppression, centuries of white supremacy and the patriarchy and all of these different oppressions that we face. So while we're in that space, we really need to find ways in which we could be buoyant. And one of the things that I tell, especially telling like Black folks, is to kind of like divest from that whole twice as hard thing, divest from it. And I'm going to put a link in here from a Refinery 29 article that came out this year in terms of divesting from that a bit and kind of embracing mediocrity as well, to give yourself a break. But really read it. And it really spun like a really great conversation online around that, like that these are the things that we're going to continue to encounter, but we need to find what are the things that we need to put around us to fortify us while we're doing this work as well. Loveleen, I know you wanted to add something to that, so please go ahead.
I mean, everybody covered it, but the one point that I wanted to just add to is like, you know, unpopular in the industry. What industry? If you spend some time in the documentary industry, it's us. It's all of us having virgin cocktails and hot dogs. So like, it's not as big and bad as scary as it seems. There's no cancel police. There's no like text messages. Oh, that girl is a troublemaker. I'm a troublemaker. I have been told, and Lisa was there pitching where I could not be objective on my film. And I just took that anger and raged it in a different direction. And I think it's like what I've learned the most is documentary is about gut and it's about instinct and it's about relationship with your subject and with each other. And like, trust your gut. Like, you don't need to keep pushing down a door that doesn't want to open for you. Like, oh, bet you are not on my side. You will be eating my dust and you will be like, oh, remember we could have had Loveleen for cheap. I'm expensive now, honey. So that's all. Like, don't even, it's like the haters are old, like they're old now, like they're on their way to retire. So it's like, don't even worry. Anyway.
Oh my gosh, this is perfect. I need oh, and thank you so much for sharing that, Sally. We have two really great questions in the Q&A and in the chat. So I'm gonna ask Lynette's question first. Just talk about, given the number of obstacles, financial, systemic, legal, time in making documentaries, do you recommend to emerging documentary makers to shoot using their own camera, edit using editing software, and publish on social media and YouTube to see how general audiences react? Is this a way to build credibility? Who wants to take that one?
I mean, I probably have a different opinion than Lisa. I'd like to hear what you say, but it's true. I mean, my go-to line that you guys can quote me on is that video is the new pencil. Like, kids are being born with cameras in their hand. And so like, everybody can, you know, try to make pencil art. Everyone can try to make video now, but they can't be you. And they can't be your approach. We live in a socialized country right now, or you can get money, even if it's like Canada Council or BC Arts grants, or like even smaller arts grants. If you can get it, then why wouldn't you try to get it? You can do a GoFundMe as well to kind of make your film, and that's a way to kind of get popular culture, especially if it's a pop or a trendy subject. Then it can go broader, because GoFundMe can be part of your marketing campaign. But I'd say if you can get money, don't leave it on the table right now. This is a time where we're allowed to be here. We're in the room. We're not going away. Just dig in and try to make something and get funding, because you deserve to try to do it like everybody else has been given the opportunity for in Canada before us. So, so that's my feeling about it.
My quick answer is sure, why not? Whatever. What I want to point out is all the means are there to tell a story, but the ability to tell a story well is still partly just a gift you've been born with, and also a craft you develop. It doesn't matter how fancy and expensive the equipment is or how cheap. Let me tell you, when I have been evaluating emerging stuff for whatever, jury, like award funding, whatever, you can tell who is telling a good story right away. And it doesn't matter how much money they spent or not. So I say, more than anything, do what it takes to practice telling stories well. And at the same time, if you're wanting to build your profile, yeah, absolutely. And it's cheaper to throw stuff up on social media and start to get a sense of who you are and what your voice is and what you're wanting to say and how people are responding. Absolutely. But no matter how cheap it gets, you can spot instantly who's good at telling a story and who's not. And I think that's what we rarely discuss.
Yeah, and I would say go more towards TikTok than YouTube. You have to get so many numbers to get on YouTube and get anything seen. It's not worth it. Do TikTok or Facebook or something else, Instagram videos. To build a YouTube, it's so competitive. So that's my strategical tip.
Definitely. And then I just want to go, we had one more question. I apologize. I'm not too sure how to pronounce your name. So I'm just gonna read your question here. How do you circumvent the difficulty in connecting when seeking funding from institutions that are not familiar with supporting BIPOC stories?
Oh my God. I mean, that's my entire career. So many years ago, I was a mentor at Hot Talks for program, and Kadon was in it. And I think you might remember me saying that I was there and I might have a few more years experience than whoever was there being mentored at the time. But it's like, I need you in this industry with me fighting. That's what I said more than anything. And this circumventing the difficulty is going to be the question you are answering probably for the rest of your career. It's getting slowly easier. It's much easier now than it was 10 years ago. Trust me, half the stories that everyone's so excited about now, if I had tried to pitch that or anyone had 10 years ago, it's like niche, 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 written off, done. So there's been a lot of shifting, but I think more specifically and more concretely, get very, very familiar with who are making the decisions at the different funding institutions and the broadcasters, get familiar with their taste, get familiar with what they know and understand, watch what they say on panels. When, as we're being in person again, try to speak with them and get a sense of who they are, try to see what they've funded, try to see what they've written, because you're trying to get a sense, and once again, it's their psychology. Do they get it? Do they really get it? If they don't really get it, you're going to have to use very strategic, like guerrilla style pitching to get that thing made. And trust me, once you're funded or commissioned, it doesn't end there. Then you're submitting rough cuts for approval, fine cuts. You're still arguing for your film and how you're framing things and what's important and what's not. So that difficulty in connecting continues right through the end. Never mind distribution, distribution strategies and approaches and trying to get your broadcaster or whomever on board. It does not stop. So you have to suss out the psychology of these people is really, at the end of the day, both what that broadcaster or funder officially is saying, right? Maybe they have a stream, they have a this, they have a that, but unofficially as well, what is their psychology? Do they get it?
And I'll just add one more thing, if I could add on to Lisa's, just I know we're running out of time. If you can't figure out the psychology of that person, or you feel like, oh, they're not going to be not just an ally but an accomplice, you need to have accomplices and partners, not just allies who say that, oh yeah, I support, but they actually do behavior towards making change. Then you just go to you find out who else is in their group, and then you ask them, like, I need your support for this. Be transparent. I actually am not going to get this if you're not supporting me, because your colleague or superior doesn't actually see where I'm getting at. And you have to make your accomplices around that person in order to advocate for you. So build your advocates. Yeah.
Okay, so this was amazing. And there's so much to absorb coming out of it. And thank you all for joining us here today. I just want to say, as I said earlier, that it's really great to see the emergence of services like this. The DOC Business Concierge. We also have, through the Canadian Independent Screen Fund for BIPOC creators, they also have their bespoke business clinics as well. And also you could access some of the past learnings, past webinars online. You could also do that through DOC as well. Find all of those resources as well. Like, what we're doing now as a community is really creating those spaces for you and those knowledge hubs, so then you'll be able to do that work. Thankfully here today we have Sally Lee, Executive Director of CISF. I don't know if Sally wants to say something quickly about their business clinics. I just want people to know that this is what's out there for you. Please make use of these services. Please go ahead, go on to DOC Business Concierge. Think about your projects, sign up, get in there, connect with these amazing people. There are 3 consultants at DOC. It is a bilingual service serving people across the country. So please check it out. I'm just gonna throw it to Sally, and then we'll wrap this up for today.
Sure. I think I've put so many things in the chat, actually, links to our website to let you know who we are, and to our resources. So we do also offer what we're calling bespoke business clinics. So that's for very like literally somebody who can help you do your budget. It's basically replacing you having to pay out of pocket for a lawyer, or you having to pay out of pocket for a business affairs specialist who can help you figure out your tax credits, or very just frontline hands-on kind of stuff, which, you know, if and when you get to that point, say with Lisa or Leena, and you know they don't have the capacity, or you've used up your 2 hours with this program, then you can certainly check in with our program. And then we have a bunch of webinars as well, some basic, you know, learn by doing, basic business skills. I know that Loveleen mentioned that she was able to put some of the stuff that she had learned in one of the webinars into action, you know, looking for a EP gig, and it's all free, and it's online, and it's there for you.
So thank you for that, Sally. And I think like I told somebody recently, like, this is just what we do. Like from years ago when, you know, people were looking for community, we're looking for mentorship. That's what birthed BIPOC TV and Film, an opportunity like this, seeing a need in our community and not waiting for someone else to provide it for us, but for us really creating this new space where we're building thriving careers, a thriving ecosystem for us all. So I really love to see it. And thank you, Sarah and Doc, for doing this. You know, I would hug you right now, but we're far away, and monkeypox and COVID. So no, but
Thank you, Kadon, for just like being so amazing. I mean, this was the most like beautiful, inspiring conversation. I thank you all so much. And Austin, I'm going to put you on the spot. If you want to just take your video on, you can just wave. So anyone who signs up for Business Concierge is going to meet Austin, who's Doc's operations manager. And he's wonderful, and he'll be there to help you just navigate through the application process and everything. So we're going to make this recording available, and if there's anyone, I mean, everyone should watch this conversation, but anyway, we're going to put it up on the page of the Business Concierge program, and please feel free to share it within your network. So I don't know what to say. Thank you everybody so much.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
I actually want to do a round of applause. Can we do that?
Thanks for everybody. What a love-in this has been. Okay.
And if you're in the audience, say hi in real life. If we ever see each other in real life, say hi.
That's right. We'll see you soon, hopefully. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Bye-bye.